Okay, here we go. It's like, what the heck? So, what I wanted to do, my apologies about yesterday. I have been having like horrible, horrible allergies because of all the fires in California. And the smoke is, I don't know, it just was really affecting me. As you hear my voice sounds a little husky even now. And man, I just go just struggling to breathe. And so I took this allergy pill. That was all she wrote. I woke up, it was dark. I was disoriented. I thought it was the next day. It was crazy. So I will not be taking any more of that. Those Benadryl, that was just it for me. I can't handle it. Can't do it. Can't do it. But what I wanted to do, this for my first 2 hour live stream, is talk about dating, of course. And I wanted to talk about the ways that singles mess up and don't get a second date. Because, everybody's, you all out there, you trying to find somebody and do all this stuff, right? So you're trying to meet somebody who you get along with, you can build something with, that you can have fun with and have, some good relations with and all of that. And so, a lot of you are getting hooked up by friends. You go on these dating sites and you switching left and flipping right and doing all this stuff to try to meet somebody. But even if you do meet somebody that you have, initial conversation is good and everything is sounding like it's going to be okay, there tends to be a problem. And the problem is that a lot of you mess up. And not only do you mess up really bad to the point where the person just doesn't want to see you ever again. Hopes that they don't see you in the next lifetime either. They're just done. It's a wrap. And I did a show on YouTube. How long ago was it? I don't know. A couple of days ago, and it was about dating etiquette. And it was amazing to me how many stories. A lot of stuff was hilarious, but how many women came into they're on the chat, listeners to the broadcast, and they just were sharing all kind of stories about how horrible their dates were, and the guys just like I was like, were you raised by wolves or something, dude? For real, you really thought that this was how you should act on a date when you're trying to get to know a young lady? I was just amazed. I just, it was funny in retrospect, but I could imagine while the women were on the date, it probably wasn't very funny. So let me share some of the things they said. As they were typing in the chat room, I was writing things down. And some of the things, now this was under the video, like I said, it's on YouTube, called Dating Etiquette, something about dating etiquette. Anyway, one woman was saying how this guy came and he had like this cologne on that was like he put on the whole bottle or something, and it was just reeking. Others show up extremely late. Another pet peeve of women, and this goes for, in the dating, if you're on the first date, have a plan. I mean, how you going to ask a woman out on a date and then you get there and you pick her up and you say, well, what are we going to do? Well, where you want to go? Do you know how irritating that is? That will guarantee you don't get a second date. Have a plan. Do something with yourself. Think about what you're doing. And, you had an idea to ask this woman out on a date, right? What was the date supposed to be? Just driving around aimlessly in your car? Just looking at each other? I mean, really? That's the best you could do. I tell you, so that just irked women, and they were just that was a wrap. One woman said that her guy, this guy that she went out with, was not only bald, but he was boring. So he got the double B, and then bald and boring. Oh, okay, he goes to pay for the dinner, right? And his credit card is declined. His credit card is declined because he's over his limit or didn't pay the bill or whatever reason it was declined. So she had to pay, for the dinner. So she knew she was never gonna see him again. He didn't have to worry. One woman was saying how the guy that she was on the date with was farting. That's like he was farting on a date. And he was probably nervous. You know how when people like you're gonna go to a job interview, you know your stomach, you get like the bubble guts and stuff. It was probably something like that. He was nervous, and it was playing with his digestive system, and so he was having flatulence. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, but I was crying. I was crying. It's like that poor guy. One woman said that this guy that she was with picked in his nose, picked out a big juicy booger and was looking at it, admiring. And these are people like in their 20s and 30s. I'm telling you, I'm still, even to this now, I'm reading about it, I'm still laughing. Guys who dress inappropriately, right? You show up on a date and you dress in tank tops and the shorts and flip flops like you going to the beach. No, you don't take anybody out for a date like that, dress like that, unless you're going to the beach. But others would complain about guys who stared at their body too much, talked about their exes, to the point of like nobody cared. Um, Dudes who, did I say extremely late? Yeah, well, to me, any late. You get like a 5 minute grace period, and then I'm out. Another big thing that I think a lot of guys don't think about is women are watching how you treat other people. So if you snappy or snarly at the like valet or the waiter, the hostess, or anybody who you deem is in a position that's lower to yours, or that they're there to serve you or something like that, and you get that king attitude going on where you be snappy, snarly, and disrespectful, she's watching that, and it's kind of thing for women. It's like if because most men think that they're superior to women anyway, whether it's true or not. I'm just saying that's how y'all be acting. So it's the kind of thing, if you're going to do that to a stranger, then do you think that she's going to feel comfortable with being in a vulnerable position to you? When she sees how you treat other people with such marked disrespect and you don't even know them and they're there doing a job for you, they're there to help you. And just dog them out and be all disrespectful. Trust me, that's going in her book, and that's you gonna be out too. Burping, smacking, smacking your food. One woman was talking about how she went on a date with this guy, and they were having pasta, right? And so I wish I had a fork so I could show you. I had a plastic fork. I don't know what I did with it, but anyway, so he's holding his fork. You know how babies hold their fork in their fist like this? He's holding his fork like this and shoveling the pasta, slurping it up his food. And she was just so grossed out. She was like, "Oh my God, I can never go out with this guy again." Do you see how many faux pas these people be making? And they're probably some of them, just really nice people. But you do stuff that just is so off-putting, so just distracting, so ridiculous that nobody wants to go on another date with you. Excuse me. I need for those of you who know me, this is not a commercial. This is what I drink every day. It's like yum. Okay, some other things. This woman was talking about how her date reached his grubby mitts into her plate, into her salad, and helped himself to some. Without asking her nothing. Just gonna reach his dirty, musty mitts into her plate and pull out some of her salad like it was his. And I was like, oh my God, see, I'm really funny about my food. I'm telling you, that's one thing I do not do is share my food. Unless I, invite you to have some. But you just going to assume you could just take some? Oh, no. So she's like, well, what did you have done? I'm like, I would have just pushed that salad across the table. It's like, this is now yours. Waitress, bring me another salad. Because obviously you reaching in mine, you obviously wanted the salad. So you can have that one that you put your nasty ass hands in. Okay, guys who asked to be picked up. What, are you Cinderella now? You need my royal carriage to come and get you? Where's your car? What kind of mess is that? No, nobody's picking you up. You better Uber it if you don't have a car. I mean, what? Who does that? What? Man, my handwriting is kind of bad. Oh yeah, this one lady said that her date live streamed the date on Facebook. He is live streaming the date. And I mean, she was a very pretty woman, so I think okay, he probably was just like overexcited because he had a date, and not only did he have a date, he had a date with somebody who was fine, and he was so excited he wanted to brag to his friends so they could all see that what he was saying was real, and I think that's why he was doing that. But still, I mean, who does that? What's wrong with you? Okay, one woman said that this guy that she was out with started complaining about the prices of the restaurant that he picked. So he couldn't even blame her. He picked the restaurant. He went there, and then he starts complaining to her about how much it cost. Do you know how stupid he looked? Of course, he didn't get a second date either. See, a lot of times, bad mouthing the ex, actually talking too much about other women, period. Whether it's your ex, somebody you work with. I mean, okay, you want to talk about that woman so bad, that's the woman you need to be out with. You don't need to be out with the woman that you're with because you're thinking about some other woman. And that's what men do. When they think about a woman, that's who they talk about. So you talking about some other broad, that means you thinking about some other broad, and that means that, why am I here then? You need to be over there with her. So there were a lot of things I'm going to go over. These were just some of the things that were said by the women in the video comment section the other day on the video on etiquette that I have up on my YouTube channel. So, I just kind of wanted to run over those just for the comedy's sake. If you guys have a question that you would like to have addressed in this, because I'm going to be here. I'm scheduled to be here for 2 hours. We'll see if my throat holds up. Just put your question into the chat over there, and then I will hopefully see it. All right. So let's go over some of these things I got. I went to social media, some group that I'm in, and I said, okay, you guys, why would a person that you went out with not get asked out on date number 2? What did he or she do or say that turned them off or had you saying to yourself, oh boy, I'm so out of here and I'm going to lose this person's number? I need first date stories, maybe horror stories, maybe we just didn't click stories, but I need to know from you all that date that went wrong and why date number 2 was not in the card. So that was my initial post. And then people started posting their responses. And I was like, oh, these singles really need some help. It's like, you guys, come on now. I don't know, is dating a lost art? Sometimes I wonder. Because, we're into like the hookup era and, the booty call era and the friends with benefits thing. And so I'm wondering sometimes, do people really, everything's so instant now. People don't really talk that much or, meet up in person that much. Everything takes place virtually, or it takes, people are texting. They're not even talking on the phone. So all our communications and interactions with each other as, generations are going by is becoming less and less personal. And I think that definitely is going to impact how we socialize with each other. It's also going to impact our ability to establish and maintain relationships, because in order to be with someone, you have to be able to communicate with them. You have to be able to work out disagreements by having good communication with them. There has to be these skills where you can read your mate, read their expressions and body language and kind of get a clue about what's going on with them. These are skills, these are communication skills, verbal and nonverbal, that I think that we're losing in this information age where everything happens so quickly and it happens over the web or over the internet, and it's not personal conversation anymore. It's kind of scaring me, really, because as people lose that ability to connect to each other, what is that going to mean for relationships? If you don't really know how to have a conversation with somebody, or how to become vulnerable to somebody, how to negotiate conflicts and resolutions with somebody, and then how are you going to have a relationship with them? It's kind of bothersome. That's a big picture thing. So I encourage all of you, if you have the opportunity, don't be having these long distance over the internet boyfriends and girlfriends and all this stuff. Date somebody local that you can see and talk to and go out with and hold hands with and kiss on and walk in the park with and ride bikes with and fight with and all that kind of stuff. You need to be able to have some skin to skin contact, eye to eye contact with people. this I'm really not a fan of this way that this is going. It's just too everybody's so distant, and it's gonna create some real problems down the line in our relationship. So that's my little sidetrack thing. Those of you who know me know how I will go off on a tangent over there somewhere, then I have to come back. This is nothing unusual for me. But let me share with you some of the things that people said when they responded to my post about why people that they went out with were like not on not on track for date number two. All right, this one lady says, I have a friend who's gorgeous, but so needy is crazy, and I don't care how old school it is. She tends to sleep with men on the first date. She also attracts some real losers. The reason is because she wants a man so badly she can't define herself first. For example, she met this guy online. They met downtown to have a drink. She called me on the date and asked if I could join them since it was in my area. Since it was a festival going on, I was fine with it. Right in front of her, he asked for my number. Seriously, who does that? She pretended she didn't hear it, and later she said, well, I like him, but we are not exclusive. Excuse me? Then later he wants her to come home with him. I had to drag her out of there. Frankly, I think in many cases women don't know their own worth. They are afraid to set the standards because he might not call. And guys like this are guys who tend to go through needy women like Kleenex. In my case, I've turned down a few. For me, it was no sense of humor, no chemistry, and my favorite, the idiot who would not stay off his cell phone because of some bet he had on a game. People show you who they are. Words mean little to me. I'm big on your actions, and if your actions on date one are disrespectful, then why in the world would I subject myself to date number two? And that is so true. She incorporated many of the things I just, that I talked about at the top of the show when I was, giving kind of an overview from the women about dating etiquette. And I mean, really, okay, for me, I have some really strict boundaries. First of all, I don't want to even hear you talking about some other woman you're on a date with me. I'm like, I'm just will be just straight up telling the dude, okay, why are you talking to me about some cow? I don't care about her. Don't talk to me about other women. See, I'm not shy. I will just say what I feel. Okay, then if he has anything to say other than I'm sorry, won't happen again. I lost my mind for a minute. I don't know how the demons took over. I don't know what. You better come up with some kind of excuse for why you were stupid. Okay, then we might be able to finish date number one, but date number two is going to be really like, you're going to have to really come up with some magic to make me forget that you were stupid and come up with date number two. But generally, if a guy does something like that I deem to be disrespectful, then there's no date number two, and we may not even finish date number one because I've got up and walked up. I walked out on men who I thought was just doing too much. And this situation right here, where a guy, you out on a date with a dude, your friend shows up and he asks your friend for her number, we're both getting up and leaving and cussing him out on our way out the door. That you don't do stuff like that. See, what that's like no respect at all. And the fact that her friend thought that was okay and that she was going to make excuses for him. Well, we're not exclusive. I don't care if you met the fool 5 minutes ago. Nobody does that. Nobody deserves to be treated like that. And that's somebody you shouldn't date. You shouldn't even be on the first date with. You should get up and leave. You don't let some man talk all crazy to you like that and treat you like that. Not only was he disrespecting you, he was disrespecting your friend. Like she just some kind of slut or something. She just going to be, oh, sure. Yes, let me give you my number because you disrespected my friend so much. I just love the fact that you're like that. I would want to have a man who disrespects me and my friend. Who does that? Come on now. I'm telling you, these dudes, something's wrong with these people. Okay, so then here comes another one. She says, the guy who talked about his ex-wife the entire night, her name was Lisa. It was Lisa this and Lisa that. That was 10 years ago. I can't remember his name, but I remember his ex's name. If you're talking about your ex on the first date, you're not ready to be dating. Oh, my God, too funny. She don't remember his name, but she remembers Lisa. Yeah, I had a guy like that I went out with. Oh, my God. The whole date, he talked about his ex. The entire date, he talked about the ex. I didn't really care, as I've told people on my channel, because we went to my favorite restaurant, and he ordered shrimp scampi just like me. So after I finished my shrimp scampi, I ate his too. So I didn't really care that he was busy talking about her. Gave me more opportunities to eat my favorite meal. So then this other one says, I went on a date with a guy I met through work. First, he showed up in clothes that looked like he'd worked on his car with, which was I dealt with. Then we met up with some of my friends, and he just acted kind of odd, which I also dealt with, and I'm wondering why. But then the next day he called and started talking about how he was going to buy me a helmet so I could ride his motorcycle with him, and that was just too much for me. We had had one date. Too soon to be talking about mutual purchases. Plus, he wasn't even like, friendly. What? I don't know. He must have, something's wrong with him. Okay, so then this other woman writes, "Oh my, I'm queen of the first date. I've been on hundreds of them." Guys who didn't go to get a second date. And she made like a list. She made a list. Okay, I will read you the list because it's too funny. Mister, go to the restroom and stick me with the entire dinner check. Mister, his place was such a mess there wasn't anywhere to sit. Dang. Mister, I haven't had any contact with any of my family for 10 years. Whoa. Mister, I can't get a regular job because CPS will garnish my wages for child support. Ah! Ow! Mister, file for bankruptcy for the second time. Dang, dude. Mister, I haven't seen my 10 kids by 10 different women in 10 years. Whew, losers. Mister, stiff the waitress for any tip. Mister left me sitting in the car. Didn't come around to open my door. Dang. Mister couldn't stop texting other people all night. Mister had a gun in his car, boat, office, and bedroom pillow. Mister had to mention how much he paid for his car, house, wine, and dinner. Mister wore sneakers to a 5-star restaurant and his credit card was declined. Mister had a face fight with a chainsaw. Dang! He sounded like an ex-convict. And my personal favorite, Mister fixed the rip in his shirt with staples. Oh, these are all real situations. I have plenty more. Don't trust me. Over the next 2 hours, I'm gonna be just filling your ears with some major faux pas from men and women, not just not just men. Women too just screw up. But I think the guys are probably a little bit. They seem to be a little more tolerant when women do things that are crazy. I had one of my guy friends though told me we hooked up for lunch, and he's like, Deb, I just have to tell you about this date. I guess it was like a Sunday or it was some day on the weekend, and he had the date the previous night, so it had to be a Friday or Saturday, whatever. So he'd had the date the previous night, and he was talking about this chick he had met her in a club or something. And I remember when he had met her the week before, he was talking about, oh, she bad, she so this, she so that, and he was all excited, to take her out. And for a young guy, he had a really good job with a beverage company. He was sales rep or something. So he got his salary plus huge commissions. He was very personable, very good looking, and he could, just talk you into buying anything. So he had like major sales, and he was making a lot of money. So he meets this chick, and then he takes her out to Scott's, which if you live in the San Francisco Bay Area, everybody knows Scott's is a very nice restaurant on the marina over in Oakland. It's like right on the water, nice water view, beautiful sunsets, and it ain't cheap, let me put it that way. So he takes this chick to Scott's and everything, and drops all this money on the drinks and dinner and everything, and that's how he lives though. He lives a kind of baller lifestyle because he makes that kind of money. So he's telling me how when they got finished with the date, the girl asked him for $50. And he was like, so I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him. I said, she did what? And he said, oh, she asked me for $50. I said, okay, did you give it to her? I'm like, did she just ask her? And he said, yeah, he whipped out and he gave her the $50. I said, okay, can you give me $50? So he gave me. I said, no, fool, I'm not. I'm just saying. But at least we were friends, But I gave him his little money back. And then I said, okay, explain to me the process that you went through in your mind. Why did you give this girl, she's a stranger relatively, that you just met $50? And he said, damn, let me tell you, if I took her out again, it was going to cost me way more than $50. So I look at it as it cost me $50 to get rid of a headache. And when he put it that way, I was like, he's right. Because I'm telling you, I know he probably dropped it over $100 on the dinner at Scott's because he liked to get, like the high end, special from Alaska stuff, all that kind of stuff. And And I'm sure, with drinks and everything and hors d'oeuvres and whatnot, dessert and stuff, he probably spent at least $100. So he felt like that $50 was a cheap price to pay to get rid of her. I'm like, okay, you know, from that perspective, you're probably right. So I didn't say anything else, about the $50. I just thought it was odd though. But there's some people have some really strange ideas about dating. So let's go on. Let's look at this one. Um, the guy who didn't like the way he looked in his photo. What does that mean? Did they take a picture? I don't know what that means. There was just no chemistry. The guy that talked well on the phone and well online, but he couldn't communicate on the human level in person. See, I was just talking about that. I'm a good communicator and I'm good at drawing people out, but there are some things even I can't do. I can't get someone who can talk to talk. If he can't talk at all to me, I'm inclined to get bored, nervous, and maybe a little annoyed. Well, because then it feels like you're on a date by yourself. It's like you got to talk, to yourself. You have to answer all the questions by yourself. I mean, why is he even there? See, this is what I was this is exactly the attitude I was referencing a little while ago when I was talking about how using these instant electronic communications is impacting people's ability to communicate well face to face. That's exactly a perfect example of what I was talking about. And I just like that's it. I really encourage you guys to get offline, and try to hook up with your friends, hook up with your relatives, hook up with your girlfriends and boyfriends. Leave your phones off. Don't turn your phones on. Anybody who's if it's an emergency, like you got a little kid and you got a babysitter or something, well, then maybe. But, don't be having your phone out. If someone's an emergency, they will call you. You'll be able to hear it through your pocket or your purse. You don't need to have it out looking at it while you're supposed to be on a date, paying attention to that person that you're with, trying to get to know them. Put your phone away. Phones, I think, are killing the romance in our lives. And people just, even when I go out to restaurants, right, I'm with my, because we old people. So we actually talk. Oh, my God. But, you sit there and you look around the restaurant and you see all the young people. All you can see is the top of people's heads. It's like 4 or 5 people. Nobody saying a word to each other. Everybody's like this on their phone, and they're with their friends physically, but emotionally and mentally they're somewhere else. And I just look at that. I'm like, this is the saddest thing. I think about when I used to go out with my friends. Man, we'd be cracking jokes and talking smack to each other and teasing each other and laughing and just have catching up on stuff and talking about people at our jobs and talking about our boyfriends. It was like lively. It was lively. And these kids, it's like you going to a funeral or something. They don't, nobody says something. Every once in a while, somebody will grunt or say, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And then, don't do that. Don't do that. That's not going to make you a good romantic partner. So let's move on. Let's talk some more about some dating mistakes. And remember, if you guys have a question, just put it in the chat. I know I talk a lot. Let me take some water. Just put your question or comment in the chat and I will see it. Okay, so let's go on to these people who responded to my question. And if you just came in, what I'm doing right now is going over responses that I got to an online post that I put up where I asked for people to share with me their first date stories. A date that went wrong and why date number 2 wasn't in the cards. What did they do or what they say that turned you off and had you, ready to bolt out the door and never see them again. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going over some of the responses to that question. So this lady, okay, this one wrote, the first date is primarily to see if you guys are in the same ballpark. Nothing wrong with playing on different fields. It just means you two may not be together. The biggest get me out of here was when I dated a girl half my age, legally, of course, he puts. The conversation was excruciating. And despite the obvious good things about the physical, it really wasn't all that either. Okay, so he was having old man fantasies and it didn't quite work out. And this chick says, we met at a bar. He was telling me what he did for a living, some kind of manager for a large company, and that was how he made his millions, in quotes. And how he was selling insurance just to keep busy, end quotes. Then he asked me if I was satisfied with my insurance, and we proceeded to split the bill for 4 beers. Wow. Loser. And this one says most of the first dates that I never called back had nothing to do with her or what she did or said. A lot of the time, the chemistry was missing, or we were just in different places in our lives. Other times, there were red flags, constantly hacking on an ex or stories about having nothing but bad luck in life. If all she can pick are losers, what does that say about her? I don't have any horror stories for you. First dates have always gone pretty well for me. The chemistry's either there or it isn't. So why worry about what one individual thinks? Would you try to be someone you're not? Of course not. One man's trash is another's treasure. And that's good that he said that, because that's one of the issues I have with women is you guys, okay, it's like, okay, you meet a dude, and a lot of times before the date even happens, the women are already kind of imagining, like down the road, what the relationship would be like, and if he wants to be married. I mean, just like you just go from like 0 to 100, and you haven't even been on a date yet. I mean, I've seen women do this, and I'm like, can you just slow down? Can you just like learn his middle name, maybe his favorite color, basic stuff, before you just go down and start, want to order marriage invitations and all this old stuff. And, so you guys got to slow down. What he's saying is accurate. And you don't try to fit into his life. You don't try to be what you think he wants you to be, or what he thinks he's looking. You don't try to be what you think he's looking for. You just be you, and you have to have that kind of confidence and belief in yourself to express who you are on the first date and every other date. Don't try to change who and what you are to fit a man, or for in the case of a guy, woman's fantasy of what they want. Be you, and that takes a level of self-esteem and confidence that a lot of people don't have. So they're not sure who they are. They're not sure what they stand for. They don't really have boundaries, and they don't really have expectations of the opposite sex. So you sit there and you just you listen to what it is that they say that they want, and then you try to become that thing, and that's never going to make you happy, because it's not authentic. And you, even if they did fall in love with you, they're falling in love with the fantasy that you created. They're not falling in love with you, because they don't know you, because you've never shown them you. You've hidden you. You've kept you a secret. So that's a very dangerous thing to do. I wouldn't recommend that. Now, listen, this is the last one for this question. While we were setting up the time, I suggested 7:30, because I knew I was going to be rushing around doing errands before then. He said he didn't really want to eat really late, and said, "It's 6:30, okay?" I said, "Fine." Then ran like a crazy person trying to handle everything. At 6:30, he wasn't there. At 7, he wasn't there. At 7:30, he called and said he was helping his mom out with something and would be there in 45 minutes. When he arrived, I met him downstairs. He was on the phone in his car. I had to knock on the window to get him to unlock the door. He proceeded to talk on the phone for 5 more minutes, not even bothering to look over and say hi. I should have gotten out of the car right there, because the story continues. Live and learn. Exactly. See, she allowed herself to be totally disrespected. I mean, first of all, he doesn't even come. I mean, you met him downstairs. He was on the phone. You had to knock on the window to get him to unlock the door to let you in, and you stayed there? Girl, you good. I'm telling you, he would have done that. I would have turned around and walked right back up in my house. Nope. And he's late after you said 7:30. Then he shows up even 45 minutes later than that. He's an inconsiderate oof. So that would have been the end of that situation. These are the kind of things you guys have to watch out for, though. I repeat, for the people who just came into the chat room, into the whatever they call us. I haven't been on Twitch that much. Put your questions, if you have any comments about what I'm saying. You want to share your dating horror story, for why the person didn't make it to the second date. Just put it over there in the chat room. That's fine. I'll see it. All right. Now let me tell you about some people who ask questions that they shouldn't ask. Now, one lady was telling me how she had this guy who she was asking questions because she's trying to get to know him, right? You know how you go out to dinner, you're like, oh, so what do you do for a living? The stuff we ask, just basic crap. Where did you go to school? Where did you grow up? Just the foundational, just BS that, we have to tell everybody that's new in our life. Okay. She's asking them questions, right? Dude tells her, you talk too much. Would he want to have a dinner where you just sit there in silence and just eat and, grunt or something? I mean, I just couldn't understand that. I don't know what that was all about. Then, I had a situation where I went out with this date with this guy, which people who follow my channel have heard this story before, but it's still amazing to me that this guy had the gall to say that. I was on a date. We were supposed to go to the dinner, and then we was going to go to the movies after. And so we go to dinner, and he let me pick the restaurant, so it was a place I really liked. The food was good and everything, and he liked the food too. So we're sitting there chit-chatting, and I'm asking him questions about his life and everything. And um, I mean, he was considerably older than me, like, oh, about 15, 16 years older than me, which usually I wouldn't do. But, I mean, he was a well-kept dude, and he was really interesting because of, his life history and where he traveled in the service and worked as an engineer for Bechtel. So he had been all over the world. And so, was intrigued. I wanted to know about what he'd seen and what he liked and about these different countries and stuff. So, I haven't been to those places. I haven't done anything that he's done, and I'm definitely not as old as him. So he tells me, after I ask him a few questions, he says to me, now, same question back to you. And I'm like, huh? I mean, I haven't been to those countries. What are you talking about? I just have nothing to say to the questions that I asked you because those questions are, specific to his lifestyle and, what he had done. And he tells me with this snarky tone, well, you shouldn't ask people questions that you're not willing to answer. Have I worked for Bechtel? Am I an engineer? Have I traveled all over the world building buildings and bridges and shit? I mean, hello? What does what you've done have to do with me? It's going to be the same question back to me. That makes no sense. So I'm sitting there looking at him. So you know what? I did this because I got an attitude. My normal inclination would to get up and cuss his behind out. But I was in a restaurant that wasn't far from my house. I used to go here all the time. I really liked this restaurant. I would even go in there and get takeout sometimes. And those people kind of knew me. Not like, first name base or everything, but they knew my face. So it's like, okay, I can't be acting a fool and cutting up in here because, they'll remember that too. So I had to hold it in, and you just don't know how hard that was. But this guy, I'm telling you, so he was like, well, do you still want to go to movies? Nope, I sure don't. That's exactly how I said it too. And, so that was it. I mean, that was the last time I saw him. It's like, you stupid. You sit up there and talk to me like that. You done lost your mind. So, you also have to be careful about guys who they come on too strong on the first date. They come on too strong. I know a lot of women like that because they think, oh my God, he's really so interested in me. He really likes me. And they think that all that, unending attention is a good thing, but that's not normal. If you have a guy that's doing that, he's putting a bum's rush on you. He's doing that for a reason. Either he wants to lock you down and thinking he's going to get you committed and feeling something for him before he tells you the truth about himself, like how he just got out the funny farm, 6 weeks ago, or he got out of prison a month or two ago. There's going to be some drama connection when he got like warrants in 10 states for domestic violence. I mean, there's something he's trying to hide. And that's why he's trying to put the bum rush on you to just like get you in this whirlwind, dizzy relationship where you don't, you're thrown off center. You're not focused. You're not keeping your balance. And they do that on purpose. So if you have a guy like that, he want to call you 18 times a day and text you all the time and, where you at, what you doing, all that stuff all the time. You need to slow him down and say, this is nice that you're so interested, but I need you to slow down. And, I have to take my time. This is like not my speed of getting to know people. There's nothing wrong with you putting up some boundaries about how much he contacts you and how much time he spends with you. So, women, you have to control that to where it's comfortable for you. And don't let a guy put you in that bum rush thing. Y'all think that that's all romantic and cute and everything. That's not good. The first date is just an opportunity for you to get to know him to see if there's going to be foundation for the second date. And if he's just bum rushing you like that, he's trying to hurry up and compress what would normally be, several months or at least a few weeks worth of dating interaction into 5 or 6 days. He's putting a bum rush on you for a reason, and slow his butt down. Don't let him do that. Or, you could just get rid of him altogether, which is what I do. I'm like, psh. Okay, and then they say, some of these dating experts will tell you, well, some of these questions that you guys ask are so boring. It's like they may be, but it's just like when you go to a job interview, and they ask you why you are qualified for this job. What makes you think you're the best candidate for this position, right? Don't they always ask you that? That's the same thing a date is doing. It's just like a job interview. So, you don't go in there bad mouthing your prior employers. So that means you don't go in there bad mouthing your ex girlfriends or your ex wives. You don't do that on a date. You keep your mouth shut. That's your personal business. Nobody needs to know about that. Stop talking about people in the past. Oh my God, so many people do that. Nobody cares. The employer, the current employer, which would be the woman in front of you, the man in front of you, they want to know, what do you have to offer them? Okay, just like a job interview. What you gonna do for us? How you gonna make the company in the position that we hire you for? How are you going to improve our business, improve our profitability, improve our bottom line, improve our customer relations? What are you going to do? That's what you got to prove. That's what you're there to do when you go on a date. Tell the person, if you like them, then the next thing you want to do is get to date number 2, and you do that by showing them where you are going to be a benefit to their life, just like you would a job. You're trying to get hired at the employee at the company. You want to get hired by this man, hired by this woman, so that you have an opportunity to be in a long-term relationship or spouse or whatever to this person. But it all starts with those initial screening questions. So, like I said, there's a lot of relationship advice columns out there that will say, well, those questions are boring and, you shouldn't ask those questions. The hell you shouldn't. You have to ask questions. How did you grow up? Okay, that might seem like a very innocuous question, but it tells you a lot about a person. Well, it'd be versus they say, well, I grew up with 5 brothers and sisters, and, our family didn't have much money. But my parents, we always had fun together. My parents paid us a lot of attention. I remember every Sunday we would get together with my cousins, my grandparents and stuff, and we would have a great family relate. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, if that person's telling you something about themselves. They have strong family values. They have a close-knit family. They know the difference between having money and having happiness and joy in your life. They may not have grown up with much, but they seem to have a very balanced perspective on materialistic things. That's what that's telling you. You have to know how to look at it, though. I'm telling you, a lot of these people who are in my profession, I don't know what's wrong with them. I listen to them and I see the stuff that they tell people, and it's like, you are just so out the box crazy telling people all this garbage. You really need to stop. So, these kind of questions, like, what is a person doing for work? It may seem like it's not a big deal, but, you need to figure out, okay, what are you doing and why are you doing it? Okay, is that really their joy? Are they just doing that to make money? What do they do after they leave that job? Do they have another job, or do they go and volunteer? Do they go and build stuff? I mean, what do they do? What's their life like on a daily basis? That's what you want to find out. And so, no question that you ask is boring. Never be afraid to ask, because every question that you ask and every answer that you get is going to give you insight into how that person thinks, how they've lived, what their goals are for themselves, how they feel about different things. It's going to let you know who they are, but you have to ask them in a way that doesn't make you seem like, they should be under the hot lights in front of the police officer or something. It's not like an interview, like you're grilling them, for police, like at the police station or something. It's supposed to be conversational. So you don't, you volunteer something about yourself. So it might go like this. Oh, I think about people's families and stuff, and I think, I wonder if my family was the only one that was crazy because, blah, 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 blah happened. And, oh, my God, they used to do this and that. It just happened. So you tell funny stories, right? It gets them laughing. And then they'll share stories about theirs. That's how you do it. It should be conversation. It shouldn't be like, tell me about your family. Oh, well, where'd you grow up? Oh, well, what school did you go to? Oh, what? Like you're just like firing all these questions at them rapid style so the person feels like they're being assaulted. It's crazy. So let me see. Oh, this one too. What kind of music do you like? They say that's a boring question. But to me, that's important because, so they start talking about they like gangster rap, or they like, I don't know, heavy metal or country western or something. See, I already know we're not a match, okay, because I don't want to hear that. I'm very auditory. And weird voices, loud noises. My daughter tells me that I have dog hearing because I can hear stuff like, some little microscopic sound way down the hall in another room. I'm like, what was that? Nothing. She said, nothing, Mom. And I'm like, no, there was something all right. And she just can't stand it. But so when you have sensitive ears like me, I can't stand all that head banging music, all that loud noise and stuff. See, no, I can't do it. So I already know that's something that wouldn't work for me. Understand, and I'm not saying it's bad. Okay, because everybody likes different things. That's why some people drive Volkswagens, and some people drive Hondas, and some people drive BMWs, and some people drive pickup trucks. We're different. Okay, that doesn't make anybody better or worse. We're just different. But I know and accept myself. I don't want to hear no loud sounds like that. And so somebody who's told me that they like that kind of music, we wouldn't be a match because they want to be hearing it like in the car when we go on someplace or something. And I would be dying inside. I would be literally dying. So it's like, nah, son, we can't do. We no, that's not going to happen. And also, like the question about siblings. Now, some people say, well, did you have any? I guess that's a good way to put it, but I usually might say, well, if you had siblings, where are you in the lineup? So it's like, is this the oldest? Used to be in the boss, running stuff, telling other people what to do, right? That's the oldest. Had a lot of responsibility growing up because they were the first. The parents gave them, more responsibility, like to watch the younger siblings. These are all things you have to know about birth order. Or was this person the youngest, the baby of the family? Maybe this is the only boy with 3 or 4 older sisters, the only girl with 3 or 4 older brothers. I mean, you need to know about this kind of stuff because it's going to give you insight into how that person grew up and how they relate to the opposite sex and their level of responsibility and accountability and a bunch of other things, because it's going to give them, not to say that this is guaranteed, but a lot of times when people are the youngest and they're the only gender of that, they're only one in the family of that gender, they were spoiled. They didn't have as many responsibilities as the older siblings that took care of them and kind of babied them because they were the quote baby of the family. So I'm not saying that it's written in stone, but it's just something to put in your mind to be aware of. These are all things that you have to think about when you're going on first dates and you're doing that, interview process. Is this like if you're the oldest and you get with another oldest person and with younger siblings, and you two run the risk of 2 people gonna want to run stuff. And don't be a fireside and then be the oldest. Bad combination. That really want to be the boss. I mean, but you might have been the youngest one in your family, so maybe you're used to people bossing you around. That might work for you. But, the oldest siblings, there tends to be a lot of conflict because neither one of them want to be the follower. They both want to be the leader because that's the role they've always played their entire life. So these are just some things I want you to think about, And think about, dating is not just, just we're going out to have fun, except when you're a teenager. But if you're a mature person and you're looking for a life partner, a husband, a wife, somebody to raise a family with and grow old with and all this kind of stuff, you have to be, have your big girl panties on and your big boy drawers on, and you have to approach this stuff with a different focus. Okay? Um, mm, Okay, let's talk about something that you should never do. Why do dudes do this? So many do. Okay, y'all start talking about something sexual on the first date or even before the first date on the phone. Why do you do that? What I mean, you just so immature you can't even pretend like you're interested in the woman. You just going straight for the butt. That's the best you can do. Do you know how big of a turnoff that is? The women are going on a date because they're looking for somebody. I mean, that'll come in time if just hold your ponies. I mean, have some patience. Do something with yourself so that, don't you know how players do? They finesse women. But these dudes who are just raggedy and just like too anxious and have no clue, the first thing they want to do is start making some kind of sexual comment or staring at the woman's body, had her boobs or her butt too hard, and you're just doing too much. And well, what kind of, what do you like in the bedroom? And well, what about this and that? Have you ever tried that? And you want to ask questions that really are just inappropriate for the level of involvement that you have with this person. You turn women off when you do that. Even ones who are have low self-esteem and will probably go along with it because they just are so anxious to be liked. They still don't think highly of you. They still think that you're a jerk and that you're nasty. And it's like, if you want women to have a high opinion of you, be like James Bond. Okay, notice how he would always get the panties, right? But did he go around asking for it like that, all desperate and just like a buster? No, he was smooth as hell, and that's what you have to do: finesse the women. One time, oh God, you're stupid. Who is this person? Okay, back to some intelligent conversation. All right, you can tell, that's the only thing about Twitch. It's full of 15-year-olds that are stupid. And so you have, you try to come over here with some adult level conversation, and then you get little dummies that don't have an IQ of 12. And that's probably about how old they are. Okay, then let's talk about the people who ask how much money you make. Now, they ask you about your job, right? That kind of would give you a general idea of their income bracket, okay? Bracket. Because, you just never know. Because just because someone says that they're an attorney, for instance, are they a good one at the top law firm? Or are they just one that's, barely scraping by, working at some like neighborhood law firm because they barely passed the bar? And so, you know what I mean? You have to think about things like that too. Let me tell you about this girl I went out with. Oh my gosh, she was so tacky. Okay, so we go to this restaurant, right? And we had been in San Francisco at this club. We live in the Oakland area at the time. I lived in Oakland. So I'm driving, so I'm like, God, I'm really starving. It's like almost 3 o'clock in the morning. The clubs had all let out, so everybody's looking for something to eat. So we go to this place that's open 24 hours in downtown Oakland, at Jack London Square. And so, the place is packed because there's like a zillion people. Everybody's, left whatever they was at in this place trying to get some food. So we're waiting in line, and, then I had to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll be right back. So on my way to the bathroom, I see this guy sitting. They have like those booths. There's like a U-shaped booth where it's like maybe 5 or 6 people could fit. And he was sitting there by himself. So when I went into the bathroom, I was thinking, okay, he must, be waiting for somebody or whatever. So when I came out, he was still sitting there by himself. So I'm like, I stopped. I said, excuse me, are you, alone? And he said, are you alone? Or are you waiting for some people to come? He said, oh no, I'm by myself. And so I'm like, they gave him this big ass table to sit there by himself. I said, well, my friend and I are in the line, and I'm really, really hungry. It's like my blood sugar is low, which is true because I started getting like shaky. And I said, so would you be so kind as to let us sit here so I could get some food? And he looked, really concerned. And he was like, oh my God, no, just come on. So I go and get her. And then, we sit down at the table. So he was like in the middle, like, at the center part of the U. He was right at the tip of it. And so she hurried up and dashed in there and sat down next to him. In front of me, I was going to sit, on the end so that there was space between us. And I figured she could sit across from me and then the man could have his privacy, right? She scooted over. She right next to dude. And I have to say, after I got a good look at him, he was very handsome, tall and very handsome. I hadn't really paid attention because I was thinking about my food. And so, he starts looking and everything. And then she's like, well, oh, so what do you do? Oh, well, how much do those kind of people make? Well, what kind of car do you drive? I mean, she was knee deep in dude's business. And we were just there to be sitting there to eat some food, not to be, in his business like that. I had never seen her do anything like that. I was shocked. And he looked very uncomfortable. But it was, that's what gave me the notion that some people do that kind of thing. And they ask inappropriate questions and just way too personal with somebody on a first date. That's not your business. Somebody's going to let you know. They might tell you what kind of work they do or even what company they work for. But to ask them about their salary and to try to get an idea what kind of, money they got by what kind of car they drive and all that kind of stuff, that's very inappropriate. That's like gold diggerish. And, you don't want to come across like that. Even if you're curious, have enough something to keep your mouth shut for a while. Just let it happen. Ooh. Another question that you should never ask anyone, I don't care if it's the first date or the 57th date, is how many people have you slept with? Now, there's some people that disagree with me. Some guys I got into it with some years ago, man, they called me every kind of name you could think of because they felt like they had the right to ask. I said, okay, well, let's just say you had a right to ask. And this applies to those of you out there who would think that you should do this too because it's stupid to do this. Okay, so you say, how many people have you slept with? And the person says, whatever, a number. I'll just say 18. Now, depending on your age, 18 might be a lot. For people in my age group, that ain't shit. So it's like, I mean, if you're 18, 19, 20, that would, probably be a lot for you. But, this all relative. So the bottom line, though, is this. If somebody tells, so say this a girl is really did sleep with 18, but she tells you, I don't know, 3. Okay, so you heard 3. Do you have any way to prove that it was not 3? Do you have any way to prove that it was 18, 25, 57? Do you have any way to prove that what she's saying is true or not? The answer to that question is no, you don't. So there's no point in asking a question that no matter what, you will never have the answer to. You'll never know if the person is telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. They're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. Or they're just going to make up something because you asked a stupid question. So that's why I say it's no point in even asking anyone that question. What you want to do is find out if it's safe to sleep with them because, maybe y'all go get tested together or something like that. Get tested for all the battery of STDs and whatnot, and you get all of that. But you don't need to ever ask anyone that question. That is just a very rude question. Another thing that's probably not a good idea is to start asking about comparisons because a lot of times when you go on a first date and people are curious and they're like, well, what was your last relationship? When did it end? Oh, see, to me that's too soon to ask that kind of stuff because you don't know if you're ever going to see this person again anyway. And why would somebody want tell you all that personal information about yourself? It's inappropriate for you to ask that, but people do it. So just to say that they answer, I ended it, I don't know, 6 months ago, last week, 2 years ago, whatever. I mean, what difference does that make to you when they ended their last relationship and how they felt about that ex? That's not your concern. What you're supposed to be worried about is how they feel about you. Okay. So then what usually follows, especially for the insecure chicks, they want to ask a guy, oh, well, how do I compare to her? Why would you ask that? Not only do you put him in an awkward position, you put yourself in one. Because what if he says, oh, you don't hold a candle to her? That babe was fly as hell. She was all that. I can't stand that we broke up. It just makes me cry every night in my dreams. I can't stand it. And then here you are sitting there with your face cracked because you asked a stupid question. And now you got your feelings hurt because you asked a stupid question. You don't ask nobody that. Oh, my God. Another thing you want to stay away from is religion. Let me tell you about this dude I went out with. I couldn't do that. Okay, I'm not religious at all, but I don't mind if other do your thing. I don't ever lecture people about it. If they ask me, I just tell them, give them like the Cliff Notes version of why I'm not religious. But they don't, I don't go into any whole big deal about it. Okay, so I met this guy, he's a cute guy, and we go. He says, oh, let's go out to dinner. I'm like, okay. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Where because I didn't care. So he wanted to go down to Jack London Square. I forgot what the name of this restaurant is. It's across from Scott's on the water, too. It's a nice place. So we meet there, and it was like early evening dinner, like 4 o'clock or something like that. So then he has 2 friends with him, so they're on a double date. So I guess it was supposed to be like it was supposed to be a double date or something because it was a man and a woman from his church, and then him and then me. So I guess it's like a double date. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. So he goes, and so we look at the menus and everything, and then he orders some hors d'oeuvres. So the hors d'oeuvres come. He says a blessing over the hors d'oeuvres. Well, I'm just looking at them because I'm not into all of that. Like I said, that's not me. But I'm not, I just sit there quietly while they do their blessing and stuff, and then we eat our hors d'oeuvre. Okay, so then the main course comes. This boy says another blessing. Okay, now I'm starting to look at him because he's sitting right here at me, next to me. Look at him like, okay, what kind of religious fanatic are you? And the people across from him, I'm like, what is this church these people go to? I better be careful before they start coming here in orange and battling some, Hare Krishna's chants or something. So I'm making jokes to myself to keep it, keep it light. But I'm giving him the side eye at this point, like you doing too much. So he says this blessing, and so we eat our food. Then the dessert he ordered, he decided he wants dessert. Now this boy was already got a slight belly, so I'm like, dude, you keep eating like that, you're gonna be looking like Santa in a minute. But I didn't say anything, so he's like, do you want any dessert? Nope, I sure don't. And he's like, oh well, I'm gonna order this. So they got some dessert and everything. When the dessert came, you know, this boy said another blessing. I'm like, he is just doing the most. I couldn't do it. So then it's time to go, and I'm like ready to go. So he walks me to my car, and he's like, oh, do you want to go out again? I said, oh, let me think about it. Because the answer was hell no, we're not going out again. You're just a religious fanatic. I don't, like I said, you can do your thing to trust me, but I don't want to be in a situation where it's being forced down my throat all the time. But eating dinners with, eating out with him, I mean, that's a good part of, what couples do. I mean, they eat out, even if it's at a hot dog stand, they eating out together. And if I'm gonna have to be hearing this, 3 or 4 times every time we go out, I'm good. So no, that was it. Another thing that people do that gets on folks' nerves on first dates, and I don't know why y'all do this. You want to ask somebody, is that your real hair? Is that your real boobs? Who does that? What's wrong with you? Why would you ask somebody that? Do you know how rude that is? And it's like, and even if the hair didn't grow out of her head, if she paid for it, it's her. Just like your shoes. You bought them, they your shoes. She bought the hair, that's her hair. So, okay, that's the answer to your question. Oh my God, these dudes just be doing the most. Okay, let's talk about some things that people do that are just very off-putting on first dates. Okay, so you sit down there, right? And you could hear dudes doing this. They first, thing they want to start talking about is what they own, what they bought, where they've been. It's stuff that indicate affluence and money, and like they got some ends meeting and all this old stuff. And it's like, why are you trying to press somebody? Then they be mad if it turns out that the woman is a gold digger. Okay, but you was fishing with your gold. You had your gold hook out there. What you think you was gonna catch but a gold digger? Why don't you talk about something else? But then they tell I know I went out with this dude one time, and he was like, well, I dated a cousin of Kobe Bryant. I'm like, okay. I mean, okay, what you want me to do? Am I supposed to be impressed because you dated somebody who's related to Kobe Bryant? It wasn't Kobe. So it's like, what are you talking about? I don't understand how this is relevant to what's going on here. But he thought that was, an important thing. And that was, I guess I was supposed to be starstruck or something. I don't know what he was thinking. But, the same, like dudes talk about their boats and their yachts and their, motorbikes and their cars and their blingage and, all the stuff. You talk about all that kind of stuff, and then you be upset when a woman, comes at you in a financial way. I mean, it's like that's what you led off with. That's what you presented about yourself as being, a key point of value to yourself. So don't get mad at her. Another thing that we hate is guys who want to talk about the old days all the time. The old days. I had this guy, man. We went out and he had like this, he used to be an athlete. You could tell. I mean, he had like the build, broad shoulders, and he was tall and everything. But, he had let himself go. So the midsection of his body was rather thick. You know what I'm talking about? He didn't have like the taper and stuff anymore. It was like rounded. Not like, huge, but it was definitely there that he needed to do something about his, his exercise routine. And so, he ignored all that though. He started talking about his legs because his legs were still very muscular, right? All his fat was, from here to the like pelvic region. And so he's like, he hits his leg. Look at these legs. These legs are just as good as they were in high school. I used to do this and that and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that was 35 years ago. Can we come into the current year, please? And, he's just railing on and on about his glory days when he was in high school and college. And I'm like, dude, you're in your 50s. Can we let that go? Oh, my God. That's boring, and that will guarantee that you don't get a second date because that makes you look stupid. And, don't do that. Keep that for later. Like when you guys are talking about, sharing stories of your past or something. Don't be boring a woman in the present with some stuff about when you were 16 or 18 years old. And you 52 now, 55. And you still talking about that. No. Really? How about guys who just seem like they don't understand no? You don't understand no. That's a real bother. You guys really need to work on that. And I'm not joking right now either. You know, a lot of guys, like if they hear a woman say no, I don't want to, no thank you, you know, she makes any kind of negative kind of indicator, to them that begins the negotiation process. Well, why not? Well, come on. Well, you'll love it. It'll be great. You know, blah, blah, blah. They start pushing their agenda. And, you know, that is, for a woman with any kind of self esteem, you're in the no fly zone right now. You're going to crash and burn. And it's like, you know, have some respect. If a woman tells you she doesn't want to do something, she's uncomfortable with it, she doesn't like it, it's not her thing, then be man enough to say, all right, because she's not you. And she's entitled to have whatever opinion or desires that she wants that don't have to match with yours. You're not Bopsy twins. You're not conjoined twins. You ain't made it at the hip and nothing like that. So, you know, you just stop it. Let me tell you about this story. Those of my channel followers know this one too. Kincaid's, that's the name of the restaurant that I was trying to think of. We had Kincaid's. And I was sitting at the table by the window. These people are sitting right across from me. And they're on a date, right? And so they're looking at the menus, and the dudes are talking about how the fish was really good, right? The fish is good. And she's like, well, you know, I don't really like fish, so I'm not going to order any fish. I think I'll have a steak, she says. And he's like, steak? You know, the fish here is really good, though. And, you know, could get a steak anywhere, this and that. And she says, no, you know, I don't really like fish, though. I'm just going to get a steak. Okay, now she said that twice, right? That means no. No fish. I don't like fish. I'm not having fish. That's what she's saying. Do you know this clown comes back yet again, and he's like still trying to pressure her into having this steak? Now he didn't know, maybe she was gonna say something like, I can't have fish. Fish makes me fall out and feel like I'm gonna die. I can't breathe. I mean, it could be maybe she didn't want to tell him that, you know, seeing as how it was their first date. You know, she just trying to say, well, you know, I don't really like it. But she don't want to go into like her whole medical history and tell him all these details, right? Don't you think that could be a possibility? Because a lot of people are allergic to fish and shellfish. They can't eat it. They get what you call it, anaphylactic shock and hives and all kind of stuff starts going on. So it could have been that, and she just didn't want to tell him, right? But he you know, in his head, he's about what he wants, and so, well, come on, you know, I don't understand why, you know, this and that, blah blah blah. So then now she puts her menu down, right? Because she's like this, right? She's looking at the menu, right? She puts the menu down and looks him dead in his eyes and said, "I told you," and she's saying it like that, you know, with the like emphasis between each word. I told you I don't want any fish. Okay, so now he get all in his feelings, right? Because now she's mad and she's like stern with him and everything. And well, God, you know, you don't have to be like that. You know, I just wanted you to try something different. I just wanted you to have something good. Okay, but that's not what you wanted. You wanted her to have what you wanted her to have. That's what it was. You didn't want her to have something good that she wanted. You wanted her to have what you wanted her to have. And she said no. And see, this is what I'm talking about. An example of a man who won't take no for an answer. It doesn't always have to be you know, like a lot of people automatically think that I'm talking about making a sexual reference. That's not always the case. Some of it is just, you know, situations like this. A woman doesn't want to do what you want her to do. She wants to do something else. And, you know, you insist that she do what you want her to do. That's a control freak. And a guy will show you what kind of person he is, you know, this commandeering, control freak, you know, aggressive kind of dude right off the bat. Luckily, you know, because I was ear hustling like a mug because I wanted to, you know, like how she was going to handle it. So I couldn't even think about what I was doing because I was too busy, you know, tuning in to what was going on over there to see what she was going to do. But they, you know, she stayed for the date. I would have left, but she stayed up for the date and, you know, but it was just tense. You know, the atmosphere changed. When they first got there, they was all giggly and, you know, all smiles and stuff. And after that, she wasn't doing too much smiling and not too much conversation happened because, you know, she was waiting till she could get up out of there and just, like, lose his number because he was stupid. He just messed that all up. All he had to do when she said, oh, I don't like fish. Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, you know, everything that I've tried here is good. So, you know, I'm sure you'll be happy with whatever you want, you know, whatever you get. That's all he had to say. And he could have had a wonderful date. She would have still thought highly of him. And they probably would have had date number 2. But he screwed it up, so she wasn't going to see his behind no more because he handled it wrong. And he showed his true colors, but he just was not anybody that anybody would really want to be bothered with, you know, again, because of the way that he came off. He just didn't listen to her. It's very disrespectful. Another thing, like, you know, say somebody asks you what you do for work, right? They just wanted just the Cliff Notes version, the highlights. Uh, I work in the health industry. You might say, oh, I do medical research. Okay, you have to say what kind and every slide that you did and what projects you worked on for the last year and this and that. Nobody cares but you. Probably you don't even care. But nobody's want to know all them details. They're not hiring you for a job. They're just just trying to get a general idea of what your work environment is like. Do you wear a uniform when you go to work? I mean, what? I mean, just basic polite chit chat. Nobody's trying to get all knee deep up in your thing. Okay, but this dude, oh my God, he was some kind of engineer. I can't remember because my eyes glazed over so hard. It was like I probably turned into a marble statue. How long dude was talking about his job and about, these projects he's working on and the research and the, this kind of board that he would. I mean, he just went into all this detail. And I'm sure it was exciting for him because he seemed like he really loved his job. So I tried to be polite and listen because it was obvious he really cared about his job. But I gave no, well, just really didn't care. It's like I don't want to know all them details. I mean, the me that I am now would have said, that's enough. I don't need to know all the details. I just wanted, a short and little overview of what you do. I don't need to know all the details. I don't know what you're talking about anyway. Because he was using, his industry terminology, which at the time I didn't know. I do now. But at the time I didn't. I'm like, oh my God, this dude is just doing the most. Another thing you don't want to talk about on your first date that will guarantee to turn people off is your challenges that you faced in life, your drug habits, and how you was a crackhead or you was like hooked on opioids or you was a meth head or something. No, nobody needs to know all that. How the time you spent in the pen. Nope, don't talk about that. Uh, your challenges with mental illness, the cancer that you got. I mean, all of that kind of stuff is stuff for later. Okay, if you really have a relationship and someone really wants to care about your past on that level, then certainly then you would share that kind of information. You don't go on a first date and start unloading your soul, telling this person everything bad about you that ever since the day you were born, and think that they're going to want to be with you. They give you like a second date. Why would they do that when you've already told them that you're a drug fiend, a criminal, crazy? I mean, all this stuff that's like makes you really undateable. Okay, yes, that might be a challenge that you've overcome. Yes, you did that in your youth, and you're not stupid no more, so you don't do those kind of things anymore. You realize what you were a dummy, face palm moment, all kind of stuff happened. But that's something that you talk about later. Okay, just save that. Don't go on the first. You don't lead with that kind of stuff on the first date. Yet people do that all the time. And then they wonder why nobody want to see them. They say, well, I'm a nice guy. This is the famous Lamentation song. But I'm a nice guy. These women don't want a nice guy like me. They just want a thug. Thugs have enough sense to keep their mouth shut and only talk about the stuff they need to talk about at the time they need to talk about it. Y'all just be inappropriate and you do too much. It's just too much. Okay, some of these people want to talk about children, relationships, marriage on the first date. This one woman was telling me, I was chastising her about that. And she tells me, but, I don't want to waste my time. I want to know where this is going. And I want to know, if we're on the same page. I'm like, you want to know too much. And she just looked at me like, what are you talking about? You say that people should, know that they're on the same page. I'm like, they should know that, but you're not going to know that on the first date. You're never going to know that on the first date. It's probably going to take at least 5 or 6 dates. That's why you don't jump right into bed with people. You talk to them a lot and get to find out what's going on in their head, what their dreams are, what the hurts are, what's going on with them. And then you would make a decision on that level. But, what was I getting ready to say? Oh, so these women are like, well, I want to get married. So, she's going to ask the dude like right off the bat, what are your thoughts on marriage? What's your timetable? And dude's like, whoa, wait a minute. Chick, I just met you. How was you talking about? Or the guy will give some vague answer like, well, I mean, it's something I've thought about, maybe doing some time in the future. Because he doesn't want to make you think he's blowing you off and wasting your time and stuff like that. But That just because he has that idea in mind doesn't mean that he has that in mind for you. So you put painting yourself into a picture that you really shouldn't be in that frame. So don't do that. Don't ask him that kind of question. I mean, get to know him a little bit further because you might decide that he's stupid, and you have no interest in what he's talking about anyway, and that he ain't the one. But in the meantime, you done put the bum rush on dude talking about marriage and the babies you want to have and stuff. Oh my God. Mm-mm. Don't do that. Um, Another thing that we do on first dates is, as the early story was, people who flirt with other people while you're on a date. The guy, remember the story I told at the top where the woman gave the example of how her girlfriend's, the guy she was out with, asked for her number? Well, I've seen situations where guys are out on dates, and I don't know what the status is of the relationship with the two. Are they like really a couple? Did they just meet? I mean, who knows those kind of details? But you can see like this one, like for example, this guy asked me out, right? Ooh, excuse me, the bubbles in my Lacroix are coming back. He asked me out to this club with him. When I was at home, I was like, he's like, oh, come down. Let's dance and stuff. So I'm like, okay. So I meet him down there. And I see, we chit chat and everything. And then he's like, okay, I'll be right back. So I'd been there, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. So then I'm like looking for him, right? And I look, this place had an upstairs. And I look downstairs where the dance floor is. Why is this fool dancing with some other woman after he invited me there to dance with him? I left. Now, this would have been like, I think our third date. That would have been our third date. So it's beyond the first date. But why did you call me if you were just going to dance with everybody? I mean, you could have just had an evening out, I mean, we wasn't like that. It wasn't like it would have made any difference to me that he was there without me. You know what I'm saying? It really wasn't that big of a deal. So I'm looking at that like, what the hell was this? So, I get my keys and I go home. So then he calls me talking about, well, I was looking for you. I said, I saw you. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I saw you on the dance floor. It's like, how you going to invite me to come down there someplace to, quote, dance with you, and you don't even dance with me? You go dance with somebody else. What kind of shit was that? It was like I was mad. I was just like in awe of the gall. It's like, what possessed you to even call me? Well, I thought we could have fun together. So I said, so I'm supposed to be having fun while I stand around and watch you dance with some other broad? Is that what you thought? Well, no. I'm like, click. And that was that, the end of that whole, whatever that could have been. That was it. It was over. But I'm like, what kind of disrespectful chump is you? So you got to watch for people to do stuff like that. I don't know if he was flirting with the other girl, if he knew the other girl. I don't really care what the situation was. Never found out and didn't care. My point was, I got dressed. You called me. I got dressed, cleaned up, dressed, and drove with my car with my gas down to meet you. And that's what I get. That was what I got for that. I'm like, oh, okay. I see how you are. So I'm pointing that. What's some good things? What are some good things to ask somebody instead of these really horrible things? On my YouTube channel, I have a video called "The Man Behind the Mask," and it gives some suggestions for questions that women can ask men. I guess some of them could probably be, for both genders, but my channel there is primarily for women, so just most of the videos are directed towards women. So in this one, it asks the women, it gives the women rather some ideas for questions to ask guys in the conversational way that I mentioned, how they can, get to know the guy without making him feel like he's under hot studio lights and being interrogated. So, things that are funny, things that create a good rapport between the two of you, things that he can talk about and laugh with, like some funny stories about his childhood or stuff maybe. Situational things like, I remember this guy, when I was at this bar, I met this guy, and we actually went out a couple of times until he showed himself to be stupid. But walked up to me and asked me, If I were to ask your best friends two things about you, what do you think they would say? So it's, it was a line, of course, but it was a different one because it was one that was intriguing, and it was designed to get information about me, but in a different way than just saying, "Oh, so tell me something about yourself." Okay, that's so like but you basically would get the same information just delivered in a different way. So because he asked the question in a different way, I'm like, okay, that was pretty smooth. So I adopted that. Um, asking people stuff like, what's your favorite dessert? It amazes me how many people like chocolate. Evidently, a lot of women like chocolate. And when I say I don't like chocolate, dudes are always like, "What? You don't like chocolate?" I'm like, "No, I sure don't." And I guess that's really different. I also don't do dairy. So they ask, well, can we go and get ice cream? No, we cannot. Why? Like, well, vegans don't eat dairy products. I mean, but even before that, me, I have that lactose intolerance thing. And honey, me and milk are not friends at all. I can't digest it. It's just a horrible, horrible experience in my life when I eat anything that has milk in it. So, how do you know if a person is somebody that you should never, ever, ever see again? I have some notes that did for a show that I did on Blog Talk one time, and I'm going to share some of them with you. When you go on your date and you have unrealistic expectations, what does that mean? That means you want to think that this is the one, that you guys will be happily ever after, that everything is going to be perfect and wonderful, and you're just like in the movies or something. I don't know what y'all be thinking, but it's rarely, if ever, like that. So there's always going to be some conversations that need to be had and some discussion that needs to be had, and you can't expect the world from a first date. That's just a getting to know you kind of thing. That's just something that people do. It's like the necessary part to get the relationship off the ground. It's like laying the base foundation. And you can't expect to leave the first date with a relationship. You're not going to leave that with that being your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Don't act like that, because you be doing too much. You want to call them all the time, and you want to set up more dates from that one. Can you wait a minute? Let the person digest and process what had happened and how they feel about you, and then call them a day or so later, and then ask about for the next weekend. Don't do it right then, right there, because most people will say yes because they feel pressured. That's not what you want. You want them to say yes because they really want to, not to be polite. And if they don't want to, you also don't want to pressure them. So don't ever ask for the next date while you're still on the date. Just let that go. Just give it a rest. Let the person process how they feel about you, reminisce about you, think about you, fantasize about you, so that by the time you ask them out again, they'll be like, "Ooh, yes, ooh," because it's just a strategy, and that's what you need to do. So don't be, just putting a bum rush on people. Um, Sometimes, there's no second date because you realize when you went on a date, the first date, that this is somebody you should never, never, ever, ever, never in this lifetime or the next 10 gone out with, because there's something that's just dreadfully wrong with them. What example do I have of that? Oh, yeah, this guy, man, on the date, he started telling me about uh, his family has schizophrenia in it. I was like, okay. Now this was, I had a young daughter, and this was his teenage son. It was like 16. I think my daughter was like 7 at the time. It was right after, no, I guess maybe 8. So it was right. I tried to get back into dating after my husband had died in that car accident, and it takes a while for you to get your mind right and stuff. So I'm trying to get back out there. And so this was like one of the first guys I had gone out with, after, I started trying to date again. It was a hot mess. But anyway, I tried. And so I go out with this guy, and we went to this music concert that was at this park in Pleasanton. And they had like music there, and, everybody was, blankets and stuff. And so we had food and our drinks and whatnot. So it was comfortable because you get to lay there on your beach, lay on your towel or blanket, whatever, and sit there. You listen to the music, and the water was there, and it was just really nice. All of the families and stuff. It was cute. So I had a good time in that respect. But while I was talking to him, he started telling me the story about his son and how the son tried to attack the sister, the younger sister. The son evidently flipped over to schizophrenia land. And so, it was during a period of time him and his wife were getting a divorce. And so he wasn't living at the house. So the daughter calls the mother, and the mother calls him. And then he tells me that he tells the mother, I'm at work. What do you expect me to do? Okay, so this is the scenario though. The son is a stocky built 15 or 16-year-old, had tried to attack his sister with some blunt object. So the girl got whacked once. She ran into her room and locked the door and pushed furniture in front of the door. The girl was smart because her brother was big and strong. And if he would have gotten a hold of her, it probably would have been a very sad story. So while she's in her room, she calls the mother. So the mother's racing home to handle it, and she calls her ex-husband, estranged husband, whatever you want to call it, to come and help. And so he's like, I'm at work. What do you expect me to do? So basically what he did was turn his back on his flipped out son, his endangered daughter, and his frantic ex-estranged whatever wife. And that told me a lot about this man's character, because every guy that I told that story to, after that, it's like, well, how would you have handled it? They were like, what? My baby girl's in the box in the room. My son's losing his mind. And my ex, they're estranged now. She could be in danger too. It's like that's my people. I'm saying, dude, just like to his boss, dude, I got to go, and he would be out the door on his way home. And anyway, they ended up calling the police. I mean, he's telling me all this stuff, right? And I'm just sitting there looking at him like, wow, this guy's a loser. How would you dare to abandon especially the daughter? She's basically there at the house defenseless with this maniac brother of hers who's obviously mentally ill, and you just think it's okay to just leave her there and not give her any help? You just do that to your little girl? Honey, I'm telling you, I was through with dude. And so that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you think that, in all other aspects, we got along great and everything else was wonderful as far as how we related to each other. But that particular story that he chose to share with me, he's thinking it was telling me, about his ex-wife and stuff, but it really was telling me about him, because that showed me that he really didn't give a shit about them at all. And I couldn't expect him to give more care about me and my daughter. That was his blood, and he left them alone. So what would he do about me and my baby? Oh no. And plus his son was crazy too. I'm going to have my 7 or 8-year-old daughter around him, and he's attacking his own sister. See, his son would end up, but pushing up daisies, as my grandfather used to say, because you're not going to hurt my child. If you're going to do something to my child, that means you got to do it to me too. And trust me, me and that boy would have been going at it, and that would have been ended well for him. So I was like, let me just leave this man alone, because I'm not trying to go to prison. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to do that. But that's where I would be if if his son tried to attack my daughter. That's right where I would be. So, yeah, that was kind of a scary situation, but I'm sharing all this with you guys because I want you to understand how to listen. Listen to what people tell you. It's important that you understand what you're hearing, not just the words, but what those words mean, okay? What does that mean? Because you just hear the story. It's like, oh, well, it happened, and now the boy's on medication and blah, blah, blah. That's the story. But what is the meaning behind his behavior and his handling of that situation that created that story? That's what I was paying attention to. And a lot of people don't know to listen to that kind of stuff, but that's why I'm here explaining it to you. When people tell you the stories about how they respond to different situations, you have to look at what kind of person they represent themselves to be, and how they took care of people who are supposed to be their loved ones. And understand, if that's how they dogged them out, you would get that treatment and possibly worse, because whatever ties they had to them because it was blood, you don't have that. Okay, you the new person on the block, so you better pay attention to what they be talking about and how they treat people and talk to people, because they'll be doing the same thing to you. What if your personalities clash? And you're on the date and you notice that this first, how would you know that your personalities clash? Well, you might say things like, you're talking about, I don't know, female empowerment things in the news or something. And then he says that he doesn't believe in women. Women need to be silent and submissive, and women need to listen to men, and that's why women shouldn't have abortions, and they shouldn't have the rights to do this and that, and blah blah blah. Okay, but you are staunch female empowerment type person. I'm not saying a necessarily full-fledged feminist, but you more on that side than you are on the side of being submissive to some man and doing what he said just because he's got a ding-a-ling. Okay, you want somebody who's going to respect the fact that you're a woman with a brain, that you think, that you have a heart, that you love and care and support and all that stuff. You want somebody to respect that, and then you have somebody here who's basically telling you that he doesn't and that he's the ruler of the world and that you're just a peon. Okay, so that's a serious personality and value clash. Some of you women will be like, oh, well, maybe I could be more submissive as you try to adjust yourself to be what he wants you to be instead of being the person that you are. And that's when you're supposed to tell him, well, this was a really nice time, but I see that we have some serious differences in values and outlook, and I don't think we're a match at all because, we would have a lot of conflict because of our differing value systems. And but it was very nice meeting you. I enjoyed this, lunch, dinner, whatever you had, and I hope you find what you're looking for. And then you be humdulillah, 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 out. Deuces. Because these dudes, I'm telling you guys, you got to listen. You got to understand what you're hearing, and what that means for you in the long term. Because these dudes, I'm telling you, what do you do if you're on a date and your partner is too want to be too perfect, too polished, too wonderful, too overdressed, too never make a mistake, too the best at everything, too. I mean, it's like this person, the way that they explain themselves, the sun practically rises and sets on their head. They don't never make a mistake. Only other people, they're perfect. All this kind of stuff. What do you do with somebody like that? What does that mean? That means you're with a narcissist and you better run. I mean, you better put on your track shoes and break out like your name is Flojo or something. Because the people like that are just going to make your life miserable. Because even when they do make a mistake, it can't possibly be their fault. It's your fault. You made them do whatever, whatever. And that's the first sign of it. When you have someone who's not accountable and won't take responsibility for the things that they do and say and stuff, it's a sign. Let me tell you what. Let me give you an example. I met this guy in college. I called myself going out with him for a hot minute until this happened. And luckily, I had enough sense, even at that age, to understand what he was saying. So we had been, we kicking it and everything during the week and everything, having a good time, hanging out and all this stuff. But I had cut it off at a certain point because I knew that, we were having a test coming up, midterms and stuff was coming up. And I wanted to study. But he thought, I guess he thought he was a genius or was going to get by on his good looks or something. I don't know what he thought. He was used to model. So he had this very high opinion of himself. And he was cute, though, hazel eyes and just, nice looking guy. But you still need to study. So, grades come out. He gets some like C's and whatnot. And he was mad because, I got A's and he got C's. So according to him, I got A's because the teachers just didn't like him, and that's why he got a C. And I said, oh, so it can't possibly have nothing to do with the fact that, you never studied. You didn't do what you were supposed to do. It's not because of that. It's because the teacher liked me more. Well, yeah. We broke up that day. I can't be bothered with that kind of stuff. You just going to be over somebody else's fault why you failed. See, and I know that it was just going to be a matter of time before that attitude, if something was involving me, then it would be my fault that this and that happened to him, and he wouldn't have anything to do with it. I'm not stupid. See, I could read. I know, even at that age, I could read, stuff, handwriting on the wall or whatever you want to call it. And I already knew what was coming down the part. What if you're with a guy and you went on the first date and you feel like, he, excuse me. Ooh, I knew this was gonna happen when I start talking too much. You feel like the guy is somewhat intimidated by your accomplishments, your intellect, your job, anything about you. He's comparing himself to you, and he's coming out on the short end. And this is your first date, maybe first, second date, and he makes some kind of snarky comment about it, or you can see it. You see it on his face. He says something snarky. What do you do? A lot of women, because they're so anxious, they care more about having the relationship than they do about having a relationship with somebody that honors and respects them for who and what they are, right? And you guys, that's a big mistake. But let me tell you, just let me finish this part. So you get with the dude, and he's intimidated by what you are. So instead of you just saying, well, I'm sorry you don't, you can't appreciate my striving and my accomplishments, that obviously means that we're not right for each other, and then you just get up and move on. Instead, what you start doing is dumbing yourself down or acting like you don't know things that you know, giving wrong answers so that he can give the right one so he can feel better about himself. You position things to downplay your greatness and wonderfulness in order for you to make him have a false sense that he's better than you because of his ego. That shit's going to backfire on you. Because you got to be who you are sooner or later. I used to have a friend, like her whole family was doctors, right? Everybody in her family was a doctor. Including her. Smart girl and gorgeous too. And she had this thing where, she would go out on dates with guys and she would never tell them that she was a doctor. I'm like, why? It says, oh, because, everybody's intimidated, so I just tell them that, I'm a nurse or something. I'm like, you need to stop doing that. And if you find it, you dealing with certain level of guys that have, that kind of mentality where they're intimidated by the fact that you aren't, that you are better than them, more educated, more accomplished, more anything, then you need to date a different type of dude. I was like, branch out. Why don't you date some white dudes or date some, guys that's at your job that are about something. They from some foreign countries. They would have a lot of visiting doctors, from Sweden and all these different places. And so she finally listened, and so now she lives over there in Finland or somewhere. I mean, whatever. And that's who she's married. And he's a brilliant researcher. She's a wonderful doctor, and they, have a couple of kids, and she's living her best life. And but had she stayed here in the United States dealing with knuckleheads that were insecure and didn't appreciate her for who and what she is, she would constantly be putting herself down and dulling her shine to try to win favor for these guys that she was only on the first date with. What they think is not important. If they was intimidated, oh well. I mean, get rid of them. So what? Who cares? But she couldn't seem to do that. So I had to give her a serious pep talk about that mess because she was just, she I don't know. I don't know why she felt like she had to do that to get them to pay attention to her. And, to not dismiss her because she thought she was, quote, too good for them. And I had this story about this guy. This lady says, I once had a blind date with a guy who spent the entire evening flirting with the waitress. He then spent most of the time talking about how good looking he was and how he needed a woman who looked as good as he did. Who does that? This guy is a joke. He definitely didn't get a second date. I was mad he even got the first one. Oh my God. Okay, let me see what else I got here. Other reasons why you should never see a person again, or why you might not. They found somebody else. When you go on first dates, most people, especially if they're on the online dating sites, they're going out with a couple of people. They're going to go out with a couple of people. You might not get a second date with them because either you or they found somebody that you like more, So sometimes not having a second date doesn't mean that the other person necessarily did anything wrong or did anything to turn you off. You just find somebody that you liked better. And so you move them out the way, and then you put this new person in the center of your existence because you click better with them, you get along better with them, the communication with them is better, you're more physically attracted to them. I mean, there's a variety of reasons why this person was okay, but this person is like, yes! Okay, so then you got to go with the yes person and move the okay one out. And that's just how it is. So if you don't want to get moved out the way, understand, it doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with you. It's just that this person is a better fit for them than you were. That's how it is. With shoes, dresses, sweaters, and coats too. Some just fit better, and some just a better, more flattering style, and that's just how that is. Another reason why you should never see someone, and this is usually not the first or second date, but a little bit further down the line, you may find that person decides that they want to have marriage or children and you don't. You'd be surprised how many letters I get in my advice column from couples, from women or men too, that ask this question. It's like, well, they want kids and stuff. I really love him, her. We've been together some blankety blank years and blah, 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 but I really want, she wants kids and I don't, or he wants kids and I don't. What should we do? What we should do is break up, because this is an insurmountable difference in lifestyles that you two are talking about. You can't have a baby. You just like it's not like picking paint for a house where you could compromise and this person wants yellow and you want brown, and then you paint the house yellow and you make the trim brown or something. I mean, it's not like that. You can't mix and mingle. If you have a kid or you don't have a kid, you see what I mean? You can't, like, there's no compromise here. So people who write me that and they ask me that, it's like, obviously you two have to break up. That person will be miserable in their life if they don't become a parent, and you're going to be miserable in your life if you do. I mean, how can you even think that that's any kind of thing that you're not going to split up about? I don't know why they even bother writing me. To tell you the truth, I'm just like, okay, I mean, you couldn't figure that one out? How about if you guys have, distance? These people have these long distance relationships. You might meet them, or you maybe met them online, or I don't know, or you met them and then somebody had to move or something. I don't know, but just to say it happened online and it's long distance. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? You can't have a successful long term relationship. You know what? They always break up. Always. Every last one breaks up. You know why? Because the people that are in them get lonely. They get horny. They feel alone and abandoned, and everybody else is in a couple and they're sitting there looking stupid. So eventually they're going to get some local talent to fill in the blanks, and eventually that person will fill in all the blanks and you will be out. That's why you don't do long distance relationships. My limit is 30 minutes tops, preferably 15. But with the traffic in the Bay Area getting so bad, I've had to adjust it. It's so bad here now. It's like being in LA all the time. San Francisco used to never be like that, but now our traffic is so bad, it's just like being in LA. So I had to adjust my timetable from 15 minutes to 30 because it's seriously that bad. Might have to change it more. But you can't have a long distance relationship and expect it to last for too much time unless one of you moves to where the other is. That's the only way to save it. And I'm being real right now. You can't build a relationship over Skype. It's not gonna last. I mean, if you're a husband or wife and stuff, and the person's gone for 3 months or whatever, and y'all keep in touch by Skype until the person gets back, that's different. I'm talking about you singles who don't even live in the same area and same state, sometimes not even the same country, and you want to call yourself having that's my boyfriend and he lives in France and I live in Kansas. What are you doing? What are you doing? That's just silly. That makes no sense. I don't understand that at all. Another thing that you might pick up on is somebody who is that you might not want to see again is somebody who uses drugs. Like, say now I know marijuana is legal in a lot of states and stuff, but I'm sorry, I'm just not a fan. So you come in smelling like weed to the date and stuff, we're not having date number 2. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Likewise, if you come in smelling like cigarettes, nope. No smokers. That's my rule. I don't care what you're smoking. No smokers. So that's a guaranteed no date number 2 with me. Also, if you are Oh, that's my, okay, that's what I said. God, my writing is so bad. Okay, if you exhibit any kind of jealous streaks, it's a wrap. I don't like, guys, and I've had guys, you just met the dude, right? And he's like, well, who is that? Well, why are you talking to him? Let me tell you this one story. And see, all these stuff, of these things I'm telling you, okay, I went out with this dude, right? I should have known better than have him come pick me up at my house. But my aunt had my daughter. And so, I let the guy come pick me up at the house. Because I don't like her meeting my dates. I just, baby, my mama role and my dating life, totally separate. So he came to the house to pick me up. So, I'm still futzing around doing stuff. So I had him sitting in the living room on the couch. And my kitchen has this like a pass through. And there was some stools sitting there up at the counter. And then, the sink was there and stuff. And so the stove was here. So you could, cook things and just put them on the pass through. And people in the living room or up at the little bar area could have some hot hors d'oeuvres or whatever. Very nice setup. So he's sitting there, so I could see him. So my phone rings, and phone. I still have a landline phone for emergency. So it was there. I pick it up, and it's a friend of mine who I had helped with his resume that day. He had a job interview, and I had a computer. He didn't have one, and so he was telling me the name of the person that he saw, and her email address, so that I could send her a thank you letter on his behalf. So he's dictating a letter, right? So I'm writing everything down and all the latest information and stuff. So I could see dude through the pass through, right? He's sitting over there, starting to fidget. He's fidgeting. He tripping now. Because he could tell I'm talking to a man, right? I'm laughing. I'm writing the stuff down. So then I hang up and I put the paper on my desk. So I'm gonna do it, after we get back. And so I go back into the kitchen to do something. I don't know. But anyway, I was there in the kitchen. And he stands up and comes around by the kitchen and with this tone and this look on his face like he was crazy. Now, keep in mind, I had just met this man. I think this was like our second or third date. And he's like, well, who is that on the phone with this tone? Like, commanding me to tell him who was on the phone like I'm his property or something. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Well, I could tell that was a man. Who was that on the phone? But he didn't say man. He said another word. And I'm like, it's none of your business who was on my phone because I paid his phone bill, not you. Oh, he didn't expect that answer. So then he just, he did this buck back thing. And he's like, well, what kind of shit is that? We going out and this and that. I'm like, yeah, we're going out. But, we're not a couple. So, I don't know what you're talking about. And even if we were, you don't question me about who the fuck is on my phone. That's my phone. And I decide who I'm going to talk to, when I'm going to talk to him, and how long I'm going to talk to him, not you. So now I have this, luckily was in the kitchen, this butcher block thing with a set of knives in it. Why did I reach and grab one of them knives? I'm like, I want you to get out of my house. I want you to get out now. Because he wasn't looking right. He was getting too worked up. You know what I mean? He was getting too worked up about the fact that I was on the phone with my buddy Ken. You know what I mean? We were just friends. He got a girlfriend. I guess some men don't understand that men and women can just be friends. And, then the door is there. Like, here's the kitchen, and the front door was over there, maybe 4 or 5 feet away. So I'm like, you need to get out. So I had this knife in my hand. And so he's like, are you going to stab me with that? I said, if you don't get out, I am. Because you're going to get out. You're going to either get out walking or you're going to get out in the ambulance, but you're going to get up out of here. So he's like, you crazy, you crazy. I'm like, he did leave, though. And he's like, you're crazy, you crazy. I'm like, whatever, just leave. So he left. And he was calling me, like, how you treat me like that and all this old stuff. I'm like, dude, you don't understand. You don't come at me like that. I mean, just total jealousy and craziness about a phone call. See, that would be nothing but escalate. And then the next thing you know, he would be assuming I was, doing something with Ken or some other dude and want to be putting his hands on me and stuff. See, again, y'all, I have to get out of these situations when I see him coming because I'm not trying to be in prison for killing nobody. But I'm not going to let a man hurt me either. I'm going to hurt him back. And so chances are, if I have to hurt you back, you're going to die. I'm going to make sure of it. It's not going to be me. So, and I just have that very strong self-preservation thing. So he did, it's best to get those kind of problem people out of your life if you see them coming versus, thinking, oh, he didn't mean it. He just likes me so much. It's okay. It won't happen again. Or trying to placate him or something. I'm not doing all of that. You're just going to get out. So these are things, I want to talk about, I wanted to tell you guys about, so you could be on the lookout. Also be on the lookout for guys who are like opportunists. That's one I forgot. Uh, they want to know what you got, what you doing, and guys, you watch for the same thing, so they can start hitting you up for money, hitting you up to, invest in businesses with them and all kind of stuff. They start telling you all these dreams they have and stuff, and how you could be in on it and all this old stuff. Don't fall for that. You don't know these people. These people on the internet. These folks are shysters and game players. But that those are just a few additional things I wanted to discuss. If you want to hear the video on what do we call it? Etiquette. Some of the faux pas that singles make. This is some more in addition to what I talked about here. Faux pas that singles make on dating when they're on first and second dates. The ladies, the ladies went in, and then did you watch the chat over on YouTube? You can see it, and it's a video I did just this week, and it's something about dating etiquette, and you'll see it there, and you can listen to that and read the chat and see all the crazy stuff the stories that they shared. It was really funny. But I think my voice is just about had it at this point. So I'm going to sign off. But I appreciate everybody coming through. It's my longest stream on Twitch thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you are around when I'm here next week. I may start to do this twice a week if I can get enough audience. So please become a subscriber, follower, whatever they call it here, and tell your friends. Feel free to submit your dating advice questions. I have a get advice form up on survivingdating.com. Right at the top nav bar, you'll see it's a button that says get advice. Just click that. There's a form that you fill out, and it sends your advice questions to me. Be sure to indicate that you came from Twitch, and then those questions will be answered here on Twitch. The questions that I get in from Surviving Dating and YouTube, the YouTube questions are answered on YouTube. The Surviving Dating questions are kind of, if it just comes in through the website, split between the two channels. So Deborah Cooper, again, advice columnist for survivingdating.com and askheartbeat.com, and on YouTube. You can find me there under the Debsterism channel, just like here on Twitch, Debsterism. And I will see you all next weekend. Thank you for coming. So I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.